welcome back to the Friday edition of News Talk, everybody. We're joined now by the chairman of the Arlington County Board of Supervisors, Paul Ferguson. It's good to see you again. Thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you, Bruce.
People who live or work in Arlington can join us with a specific comment or question that you might have. Go ahead and dial now. Grab an open line right now. 387-1020. Area code 703 is the number, and we look forward to talking with you. You recently gave a State of the County address. I know it was eagerly anticipated by the residents of Arlington County. We'll talk about some of the things you discussed in a moment, but first let's discuss some of the things that are making major news headlines right now, not least of which the what are we calling them? The abuser fees. The Commonwealth of Virginia hoping to fund some big-time transportation improvements, not in a broad way in terms of tax increases, but by really targeting, really going after folks convicted of drunk driving, speeding, aggressive driving, things of this nature. Major uproar and outrage over this decision. What are you hearing, and what's your take on it?
Well, what it really shines a light on is the hypocrisy of the Republican-controlled legislature. They don't want to raise any taxes. The money they raise for transportation, the small amount that they raised from the state was in this type of fees, and then they allowed local governments to raise their own revenue for transportation funds. And now that they're getting some pushback, they're saying that it was a mistake and that they're going to try to fix it. I will give credit to Speaker Howell, who did stand up with the governor and say these funds are needed for transportation, and he's going to stick by them.
Does it just call into question the basic premise? I mean, should the legislature have said, listen, no one likes to pay taxes, but look outside, we've got needs, the roads are jammed, we all are going to have to throw some money into the pot to make the problems
It would have been better if they would have just raised the gas tax a couple of cents. That's a user fee, that's a legitimate use of that money, and gas prices fluctuate so much, they go up 10 cents, down 10 cents all the time. People would barely notice the difference, although I do acknowledge that for those that are struggling to get by, just a few more cents in the gas tank does hurt them. But I think in Arlington we're not getting much pushback on the issue. I've had a few people contact me, but for the most part it's not a big issue here. It tends to be more of an issue in the outer jurisdictions where people are doing more driving. One statistic that I like to cite is that even though we've had steady growth in Arlington, we have really decreased our total traffic. We've increased total transit trips in the last decade from 57 million daily to 80 million. And so that's a lot of people taking the metro and taking the bus in Arlington.
There's an online petition drive underway to make it clear to the Assembly and to the governor that people are really upset about this. It feels as though something might happen, but in terms of the options...
This certainly wasn't the governor's first choice. He would have preferred a more broad array of revenue to come in. This was something that came from the General Assembly, specifically the House of Legislature.
Do you think the legislature is going to re-engineer the funding now? And do you worry that if they do, that the ultimate dollars available for transportation will go down?
It'll be interesting to see what happens, but I think we're going to start spending that money before the legislature meets, and certainly before any new laws are enacted, which would be July 1st of 2008. So hopefully it won't be reversed, but if it is, hopefully they'll be responsible enough to come up with an offsetting source of revenue for transportation. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know.
Do you think the fees are too high? I mean, you've heard the numbers like we have. They go into the thousands of dollars for a kind of worst-case scenario. Does it strike you that some of these amounts are too high? We're talking about really super speeding, drunk driving, these types of things,
Sure.
No one likes, no one approves of.
There's two sides of the story. People are objecting because some of these folks that get these third and fourth offenses, they're usually down on their luck and they don't have too much money anyway. And then there's a question of whether they can actually even pay, whether they'll just have garnishments from their paychecks and so forth. But certainly they can avoid these fees by being a safe driver, and it's a good point that was made by the Speaker and the Governor yesterday in their press conference.
Let's talk about the immigration legislation that is being considered, not in Arlington, but in some of the other counties around Northern Virginia. It was interesting to read in Mark Fisher's column the other day in the Washington Post.
Great column, I read that also.
A former Arlington man, John Stirrup, is now a Prince William County supervisor, and he said he was motivated to pursue some of this legislation where the county and county police officers and other government officials would really work hard to make sure that county services weren't going to people in the country illegally. He said he was motivated to legislate in this area when Prince William began to feel like Arlington, the area he'd left. What did you think when you read that?
Well, I don't think John would do too well if he ran for office in Arlington County, but I do understand the points that he's making. And in Arlington, we take a different point of view. We welcome the diversity. We've welcomed the immigrants that have really made Arlington a stronger community and certainly been a good addition to our workforce. The question is, how many people are here that are undocumented and how many are actually here legally? And when you start the fear process of checking on people who are here legitimately, it really creates distrust for the police. And so that's something we're concerned about in Arlington.
Distrust meaning their relationships in the community?
Yes, we have a community-based policing program in Arlington, and the Prince William Police Chief said if this resolution really goes into full force, it will make community policing very difficult there. And the idea is to reach out to those with language barriers and get them to trust the police to make sure that crimes are reported. It keeps the community safe, and that's something we feel very strongly about in Arlington. I thought Mark Fisher's column was excellent. He did talk about code enforcement violations, and really, if there are code enforcement violations, they should be followed up on by staff, and we certainly do in Arlington County. But there's many people here who are immigrants that are strong contributors to the community, both in Prince William and in Arlington, and I think we need to recognize that.
Since becoming chairman of the Arlington board, you've made energy, using less, being more efficient, all of us doing our part, government, private sector, us as just residents and individuals. You've made that a real top priority. Can't help but notice that you've brought a prop along.
I brought one for you, Bruce.
For me, thank you.
And you told me that you had a light bulb go out.
I did last night, it's true.
If every Arlingtonian changed one old incandescent light bulb with these compact fluorescent bulbs, they would do two things. One, they would save 2/3 on the amount of energy bill that they're paying, and also they would take 1,000 cars off the road. So if every Arlingtonian did this, not only would we have the carbon dioxide equivalent lessening of 1,000 cars being taken off the road, but also collectively we would save $500,000.
I hate to say this is the first one of these I've seen up close. This indicts me as someone who hasn't probably
Well, let me know how you like it, and the light we believe is the same quality. For some people, it doesn't provide the same exact type of lighting. So
kind of a wider.
Yes, it is a little.
But with the right shade on it,
or you
no
can
problems.
put it out on your porch. That's a major inconvenience, is changing that porch light. So that's something that everybody should do.
So do these last longer and consume less electricity?
They do last 2/3 longer, so 66% longer life. So that's less work for you and having to change the bulbs. And one thing that has
come standard plug or whatever you call the screw in.
Exactly, you screw it in just like you would a regular light bulb. One question that has come up is the amount of mercury that are in these bulbs.
Yeah, I noticed it says contains mercury.
There is a little bit more mercury in these compact fluorescent bulbs, so it's important that you take it to the proper disposal area.
Oh, you don't throw it away in regular?
Well, we would prefer that you not, but there is mercury in regular light bulbs, so there is mercury that's being thrown away when you dispose of a regular light bulb, and of course people are throwing away more of those because they don't last as long.
Talk real quick about some of the things you touched on in your recent State of the County address.
Well, one of the things I noticed with your traffic report is that if you lived in Arlington, you'd be home by now watching that on TV rather than stuck in traffic. I mentioned that traffic has actually decreased over the past decade due to our increasing number of transit trips. Also, we encourage walking and biking. We have more bike trails and bike lanes than anywhere in the region.
Crazy low unemployment rate in Arlington.
Yes, the unemployment rate is below 2%. It is the lowest in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So even though the home values are decreasing in many parts of the region, in Arlington they're remaining stable, and even the condominium market is quite strong.
Crime?
Crime has gone down each of the last 5 years and is now at our lowest level since 1960. Our police are doing a great job, but I believe the county government needs to take some credit because these community-based policing type of measures, these are policies that have been instituted by the board, and we're also funding public safety at a great level.
Paul Ferguson is chairman of the Arlington County Board of Supervisors. Good to see you. Thanks very much for
thanks for the opportunity to be on.
Always good to visit with you. We'll take a quick break here. When we return, a look ahead to Monday's program, and we'll check in live with News Channel 8's Beverly Kirk. She's got a preview of Live Tonight.